Peter, driving through Ohio, listening on Sirius. Peter, you wanted to back to the story of this pool party that got broken up, where the police singled out the black people and threw them to the ground and handcuffed them and ignored or talked nicely to the white people. You wanted to speak to that?
Well, I mean, not to that specifically, but I've got a different perspective than a lot of people, because I've been basically slapped in the face with my white privilege to where it was just undeniable.
How so?
So I do want to mention I am feeling the burn as a monthly contributor, so I can see him as president.
Yeah, I think I think it's possible. Anyhow, back to your experience of white privilege.
We had taken in a black kid in high school because he basically had nowhere else to go, and
you're white, I'm assuming.
One day he and I live in a predominantly white area, and he'd always tutored and helped other kids and done things like that. It was one of the main reasons we take him in, because he'd always given back, regardless of his situation. And he was tutoring another kid in marching. They're marching band kids.
Right.
In my driveway. I have a big long driveway, my house, and I look out the window, and there was a cop standing in the driveway talking to him. So I walked out there to see what was going on. And the first thing the cop says to me is he points to him and he says, "Does this boy live here?" And I said, "Excuse me." I said, "You weren't invited up onto my property." I said, "I don't understand why you're here. I don't appreciate that you're here. We didn't call you or invite you up here, and I think it's time for you to go." And he essentially apologized to me, and he walked him back down towards his car. And as I came back to the kids, they both looked at me, and they said, "We've never seen anyone get away with talking to a cop like that before."
Whoa!
And I went back inside the house, and I thought, my God! I mean, I cried
yeah.
when I walked in there, and I thought, it never even occurred to me to do anything other than walk out there and say, "What the hell are you doing here, harassing my kids?"
Yeah.
Whereas
if you had been black, you might have been dead.
Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe I wouldn't have gone at him the same way.
Yeah.
But it's just because of who I am. Basically the body I was born into, it never occurred to me to handle it any other way.
Yeah. Basically, you and I were members of the Lucky Sperm Club, as it were, although, real rich people call themselves that too. But Peter, thank you for sharing your story with us. It's such a brilliant example of how just like people in general are discovering that they have gay friends and neighbors and cousins and uncles and brothers and sisters and daughters and sons and all that kind of thing, and people are starting to accept that. Similarly, white people are starting to wake up to white privilege and realize that these fossils like Bill O'Reilly, who deny that there's such a thing as white privilege, just don't get it. They just plain old flat out don't get it. They have no concept. Peter, thank you. Thank you for the call. Thank you for taking the time to share your story with us. It was very kind of you.